This stone fruit tree has got so much lush, vigorous, healthy growth. The funny thing is, I can't leave the tree like this. It will actually lead to a diseased, weakened tree. So in this part 2 of our How to Summer Prune Your Fruit Trees, I will show you how, when, and where to cut your tree. This is an unpruned apricot tree, and its growth habit is similar to many types of stone fruit. One thing a stone fruit will do, it's going to send out these really long branches. It's great, it's healthy growth, but this is not healthy long term. Branches this long, when they get loaded with fruit, they're going to drag on the ground. That's going to provide a path for pests to get into your tree. Also, the branch might actually break, and that fruit that drags the ground is going to be damaged. And this tree is big. Look at the size of this canopy. These branches shoot way high up in the air. Very dense canopy. When this tree left like this grows, it's going to be covered in fruit. It's going to take a ton of water. It's going to make more fruit than my family can use. Also, with this canopy so dense, notice there's no daylight in here. That means there's no airflow, there's no sunshine getting on the bark. All of these things will result in a suboptimal tree. This is my pruned stone fruit tree. I've taken off the top so we don't have all that huge ungainly growth. There's better light flow in the canopy, so that way they will have less disease. Also, with sunshine getting onto the bark, that'll stimulate the growth of fruiting wood, and that's what we all want. We want fruiting wood down low where we can harvest it. So this sort of tree pruning, anybody can do this. A beginner gardener, an intermediate gardener, or an advanced gardener, and all of us are going to use the same thing. You're going to need a pair of nippers, you're going to need your loppers, a saw, and gloves. Please always wear gloves. And to learn how to take care of these and have them ready to use when you go to clean your tree this summer, watch our other video, How to Clean and Sharpen Garden Tools. As you approach your tree, make sure you've got a nice sunny day, and it's going to be dry for about 10 days, especially with an apricot. The techniques I'm going to show you, they're good for all of your stone fruits. It's good for apricot, peaches, plums, also good for pears and apples, nectarines, and cherries. One more thing before we get into actually cutting the tree is, when do you want to do this? You're going to do this in the summer. You're going to do it after you've harvested your fruit. You're going to want to do it when it's a nice, dry, sunny phase. You could do this until August, maybe even September. When we trim our fruit trees, every cut is going to stimulate the growth of 2 branches. As you can see here, that bright green wood at the V, that's all growth from this year. So we're going in. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take out the 3 Ds. Damaged, dead, and diseased. Then I'm going to look for a 4th D, branches that are drooping, and then the 5th D, branches that are doubled. I'm in good luck. I'm not really seeing a lot of damaged, dead, or diseased branches on my tree this year. But look at this drooper. You can see how it comes right down. When a branch comes down like that, your tree's going to want to send all the growth hormones to it, and it's going to rob nutrients from the other branches. And it's also a branch that's going to inherently cross other branches. See how this rubs? These are all bad things. So I'm going to cut it off right where it came out of the branch. So when you make a cut on your branch, you want to cut at a growth node. See where this stem comes out and there's a little bud at the bottom? That's a growth node. And you want to cut at an angle, kind of imagine a parallel with the stem here. And if your branch is heavy, you want to make a first cut that takes the weight off before you make your final cut. I'm pointing here with the nippers. That's dead. You can even call that damaged. And I don't want it to become diseased. So I'm going to cut that dead stub off. I'm going to show you here with my nippers how crowded this part of my branch is. This is our same branch. We have 2 branches coming out of the same area, and that's too close. In general, you want your branches about 6 inches apart on opposite sides of the main branch. When I make this cut, I'm going to put the cutting edge of my blade against the tree. I'm going to go just outside of the collar for the branch, and I'm going to cut it off in 1 snip. I'm pointing with my nippers to show you how last year we got 2 branches where I had 1 cut, this that bright green wood. You can see the collar right here. See where it's brown and then it turns green? I'm going to cut off this down branch on the 2 cuts outside the collar. like so. Now of the two branches, I'm going to trim this one. It's about 3 feet long, which is way too long. I'm going to trim it at about 6 inches. I'm going to trim it at the growth node of this leaf. I'm going to cut at an angle, like so. This is a great place to cut. We have 2 branches grew out really nice and vigorous this year. This one's going down. I'm going to nip it at the collar. I'm going to take off this little spur right here, and then I'll cut this branch at about 6 inches out. Here's a little more. We're going to take this one off because it's so close to the joint with the other branches. You can see the collar there, I hope. I'm going to nip it off parallel with the branch outside the collar. This one is shooting straight up. I'm going to put my blade against the branch I'm keeping and cut. I'm going to take this branch off. As you can see, it grows and it's going to rub on this other main branch. It's also growing toward the inside of my tree, so he doesn't really have a lot of value. I'm going to take him off right at his collar, throw it in my bucket. Here's a good example of a stub. This is a branch I trimmed last year. Obviously, it died. Shot off another branch over here, which is nice. I'm going to cut it above the new branch at the collar, taking off everything one clean snip. This branch here has died. Who knows why, but it's dead. I'm going to take it off with my handsaw because I think it's a little more than I can take off with my loppers. I'm not real good with a handsaw, but it's still better for my tree to take it off. So I'm going to cut outside the collar and saw this off. There we go. This is an example of a branch that goes pretty much straight up. These are also not good because they're going to end up crossing other things. He hits a double fault because he's growing at the origin of another branch, so off he goes, and his little friend. This is a really nice example of crossing branches. There's a tiny bit of space between them, but they are just going to rub and damage each other. And you see that their origin is really close to each other. I'm going to cut off the older one. I'm going to cut at an angle. I've got the blade against the collar. Off it goes. Trim every branch every year, so I'm going to cut it here. I'm thinking about some more. I think I'll cut it here because I want it to make its 2 branches when it grows this year, and I want those low so I can harvest this fruit. Another thing to keep in mind when you're trimming your tree is you want to get sunlight down into the center of your tree. This will provide good airflow so that things aren't damp and molding. It will let sunlight get onto the bark of the tree, which will stimulate the growth of fruiting wood. And so I'm going to reach in here in the center and take off a couple of things. This branch is a great example of vigorous first-year growth. It's really long, it's got a lot of side branches, so you might look at this and go, oh, I'm going to trim it here at a nice growth node right above there. We're done. Well, the problem is now these branches are all pretty long. They're almost as long as the end of this main branch, and your tree will think that these side branches are the main part, and this will die, and you'll just have bad form overall. So you need to come back and trim every one of the side branches until they are clearly shorter than your main branch. Trim every one at a growth node. Trim them at an angle. There. I'm going to make some preliminary cuts to get the weight off the top of the tree, so it doesn't really matter how I make these. I'm just going to go in and hack stuff off. I'm going to make the final cut. I'm going to make sure that it's not flat to the ground because that could be a platform where water would collect. When water collects, then you have disease can get into your tree more readily. So I'm going to cut at an angle, make a nice clean cut, and that's the top of the tree now. We're going to show an example here of a more or less a primary branch where the secondary branch is longer. This is all vigorous new growth this year. We already trimmed this branch. So now I'm going to trim this one to be shorter than the primary. Look, I made a mistake. Look how flat that cut is. When the dew comes, it's going to rest on there. that's bad for my tree. So I have to recut this branch. Better. Carefully clean up everything you've cut off the tree. Don't leave it there for the rest of the year. It all needs to go into the green waste or into compost. So here's my finished tree. I have taken all of the damaged, dead, and diseased wood off. I've taken off the dropping branches, and I've taken off the doubles that resulted from last year's cuts. By removing all of these types of branches, I've opened up the inside of the tree. I've gone back in and done a little more fine tuning to make sure we have good light and air circulation inside the tree to stimulate the growth of fruiting wood for next year's crop. Thank you for watching. We at UC Master Gardeners enjoy making these videos and sharing our gardening skills with you. If you have other questions about your garden, you can reach a Master Gardener by email. The contact is in the box below. And there's links to our other tree trimming videos, as well as documents that can help you with your garden knowledge.